After Bridlington Bay, the Holderness coast starts to curve out into the North Sea. Hornsea is at the centre of the coastline. It developed as a seaside resort after the railways were introduced. The station has now gone, and so too have many of the tourists.
But the one thing that still draws tourists in is part of that history. The pottery produced many pieces that people took away with them, and many more still seek out around the world. And here at the Hornsea Museum is one of the largest collections of that pottery. Pottery that is so recognisable. How many of us would have had one of these on our mantelpiece? Production began in 1949 and peaked in the early 80s. At one time, 700 people worked in the factory. This summer marks 10 years since it closed, but its legacy in the town still lives on, and Carol Harker volunteers her time to tell people about it.
It was very affordable to most families. You could buy it piece by piece if you wanted to.
I know as a little girl I used to come here and we used to go to the pottery and collect it, and I've got most of the things I've seen here I recognise.
Yeah.
But did he put Hornsea on the map then?
Absolutely, yes. Because if all of us Hornsea people go anywhere and you say where you've come from, oh, where the pottery comes from.
One thing you might not know about Hornsea is that it's at the end of the Trans-Pennine Trail, a route that starts in the west of the country, in Southport, more than 200 miles away. But I'm not going to be going that far today.
Walking or cycling is one of the best ways to see this coastline, but if you want to see it now, because this is the fastest eroding coastline in Europe. It's disappearing by 2 metres every year.
Well, here we are, literally at the end of the road. It, along with many houses here, have fallen over the edge. Many communities up and down this entire stretch of coastline constantly find themselves at the mercy of the North Sea.
When the North Sea got to the level it's at now, which was about 6,000 years ago, that's when the erosion really began in earnest. And since that time, for instance, 2,000 years ago, Roman times, the cliff line was about 3.5 miles further out to sea from where it is now. That material has eroded, and in such time also 30-odd villages have gone over the edge.
Geologists tell us that coastal erosion is in fact necessary. Without it, Spurn Point would not have been created, and without Spurn, the Humber would not be a deep water port, a port that plays a huge role in our region's economy. The bigger towns on this coastline are protected from erosion. In Withernsea, this means that people are planning to stay.
It's a lovely place to live, yeah. It's a beautiful seaside resort. You know, you can look at today, it's absolutely glorious.
And the best way to see it on your bike, would you say?
Absolutely on your bike, yeah. I mean, the beautiful country lanes, beautiful town, everything to see. And I mean, it's a fantastic way to view anything that's on your push bike.
Richard Hutchins has a huge ambition for Withernsea. He wants to see it put firmly on the map.
We're doing what we call Withernsea Wheelers, which is a yearly bike riding event to try to raise money for Withernsea. We've got plans to sort of try to raise £1 million over the next 10 years. It's a bike ride event, taking in a lot of the, the beautiful countryside and scenery we've got in this area. It's like 30 miles.
And you want this to be just as big as the London Marathon?
It will be, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are going to get it there as big as the London Marathon.
Well, you can't fault his ambition. If you want to join him, the event takes place in September. As you head towards the Humber, the land rapidly begins to narrow. The peninsula at Spurn Point is the southernmost point of Yorkshire's coast. The RNLI have a station here, and this year they're celebrating 200 years of rescuing stricken vessels off Spurn.
I always describe Spurn Point as where the sky meets the sea. And there's that little tiny thin strip of land that interacts between the two. When the winds come in the winter and the gales and the rain, it is a godforsaken place, it really is. We're coming up on the equinox tides where we start to have problems with the road, washovers. We've got a very big spring tide today, so I've sort of had a mindful eye on it. We're a busy, busy station. We normally average 50 plus shouts a year. My fuel alone for last week for 3 call-outs was just short of £1,000.
only other person you can find at Spurn on a daily basis is Andrew Gibson, a man with a dream job. He looks after the headland for the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust.
Well, what a beautiful part of the world, Andrew, and you are lucky enough to live and work here.
Certainly, and this is the start of Yorkshire. This is where it all begins, with them turquoise blue seas, big skies, big clouds, lots to see, lots going on. We're trying to maintain it for the enjoyment of nature, people, and the strategic importance for the river.
Because coastal erosion actually is what this needs, isn't it?
Without that erosion, this will wash away. We need this landform for the whole region, and I would like to be here to enable that to happen, so that we can all enjoy it, the benefits both economically and recreationally, wildlife, for a long, long time.
So the rapidly eroding coastline gave us Spurn Head, but also the deep ports that drive the Humber economy. Next week we're crossing over to Lincolnshire shores. We can just make them out here behind me. We'll be looking at an ancient process that's made the area a bedrock of British industry.